Greetings from the Alexandrina Council. Let's meet the driving force behind the Alexandrina community. Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald. Mayor, Keith Parks. Deputy Mayor, Councillor, Michael Scott. West Ward, Councillor Bill Coomans. Councillor Michael Scott. North Ward, Councillor Craig Maidment. Councillor Sue Miller. Councillor Christy Thornton. South Ward, Councillor Margaret Gardner. Councillor Millie Livingston. And finally, Councillor Peter Oliver.
Good afternoon and welcome to our council meeting of Monday the 15th of June 2026. An audio recording of this meeting will be made for minute-taking purposes and will last the length of the open meeting, and the audio file will be available on the council's website. We also have our friends from South Coast Television here, and they, as usual, making a video of the meeting, and the recording of the meeting will also be available online. It is a public place in a council meeting and there should be no expectation of privacy. Also, there is unlikely to be any legal protection or other privilege attached to any statements made in this meeting. And if you could please place any phones or smart devices onto silent so that they don't cause interruption to the proceedings. Particularly like to welcome members of the gallery. It's great to see you here. Those unfamiliar with the venue, the toilets are directly through behind us there off the main foyer. And so it's nice to see you here at our meeting. I'd like to welcome our elected members. We have no apologies and no leave of absence. We'd also like to welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald, our General Manager Community, Stacey Bateson, General Manager Infrastructure, Alan Harvey, General Manager Corporate, Tash Hunt, our Chief Financial Officer, Andrew Alderson, our Manager of Governance and Communications, Lachlan Miller, and our Minutes Secretary, Tanya Cregan, and some of our other staff who are here as required. Would those who are able please stand for the local government prayer and acknowledgement of country. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to grant Thy blessing upon the works of this council. Guide us in our deliberations for the advancement and the true welfare of the people of this district. The Alexandrina Council and its community acknowledge the Narrandjeri, the Paramount and the Ghana people as traditional custodians of the lands and waters of our council district. Thank you. Just to remind council members, if you have a conflict of interest for the purposes of Part 4, Division 1, Subdivision 4 of the Local Government Act of 1999, in a matter which will be before the council at this meeting, you're asked to disclose the interest to the council and provide full and accurate details of the relevant interest at the beginning of the meeting. Members are also reminded they must deal with the conflict of interest in accordance with the relevant provisions of Subdivision 4 at the time our item arises for considerations. I advise that I have a conflict of interest, a material conflict of interest at item 9.3, which is the community engagement outcomes regarding Ballerina's new lease and licence proposal, as they are a company who were good enough to give me some support during the last council elections. We also have a conflict in Councillor Miller. You just tell us what it is.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I have a conflict of interest at item 9.12, a material conflict due to my employment, and I will be leaving the chamber. Thank you.
So, item 2, are there any others? No. So, item 2 is confirmation of minutes. 2.1 is the ordinary council meeting minutes of the 18th of May 2026. There's a recommendation that they be received as true and correct. Move, Councillor Maidment. Second, Councillor Thornton. Any questions or discussion relating to those? If not, I'll put the recommendation to all those in favour. Against, it's carried unanimously. 2.2 is the Cemeteries Advisory Group minutes of the 6th of May 2026. There's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Moved, Councillor Gardner. Seconder, Councillor Scott. Any discussion or question relating to those minutes? No, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 2.3 is the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee minutes of the 14th of May 2026, and the recommendation is that those minutes be received and noted. Move Councillor Coomans.
Yeah, Babs, could I make some comments? Oh, hang on. Is it working? Oh, sorry. I was looking for green, it's red. If you don't mind, if I could just make a few comments about the meeting. Thank you. I'm now the newly appointed councilwoman to the 20th of April meeting, given the exit of Councillor Nicholson, and I share council duties with Councillor Scott. My first impressions of the meeting was that I'd like to compliment the chair, Mark Laurie. He is a very competent member and a very competent chair. We've got representatives from the Middleton Community Association, the Port Elliot Community Association and the Narrandjeri. 8 out of the 10 members of that committee attended, and the meetings are held quarterly, and the meeting that I attended lasted for nearly 2 hours. My first impression of the committee is that it has an excellent representation in relation to its terms of reference, that it covers an extensive area of Middleton and Port Elliot, including the impressive caravan park and the Horseshoe Bay in Port Elliot. It's my suggestion that Council listen carefully to that committee for its expert advice on the management of that area, as they are a very good, credible group who represent the area well. I'd also compliment the staff in General Manager Alan Harvey, Danae Cates and Rachel Lewis, who provided excellent administration advice. The main item of discussion was in relation to the master plan review outcomes and the proposed workshop to be held on the 23rd of July for the delivery of the remaining master plan actions. There are some issues surrounding the invasion of rabbits and some fire mitigation approaches and strategies, as well as some stormwater matters to be presented at the forthcoming meetings. There are also other matters under consideration. I think it's a great committee. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Oliver. Is there any further discussion? Put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 2.4 pardon me, is the Chief Executive Officer Performance Management Panel special meeting minutes of the 25th of May 2026. There's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Move Councillor Oliver. Seconder, Councillor Gardner. Is there any discussion relating to those minutes? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Item 3 is adjourned debate. There is none. Item 4 is presentations and deputations. There are none. Item 5 is petitions. 5.1 is a petition requesting council to implement option 2 and keep the trees with higher level of maintenance for future planning for the Goolwa Main Street trees. There's a recommendation that we receive the petition requesting council to implement option 2 and keep the trees with higher level maintenance and future planning for the Main Street trees, and that it be forward to the Infrastructure Division for assessment and response to the head petitioner. So there's a recommendation there that we receive the petition. Move Councillor Livingston. Seconded Councillor Oliver. Is there any discussion? Any petition receiving? No. I'll put it to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Item 6 is questions with notice. 6.1 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding the Wooden Boat Festival history and former Goolwa Wharf Precinct Board terms of reference. 6.2 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding shared services impact on Alexandrina Council's A2 2040 strategic delivery plan, and those questions and the answers to them are included within our agenda. Item 7 is questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Scott.
Has Council received any notification from the Department of Environment and Water or Steam Ranger in relation to flood mitigation issues and culvert restructuring in Middleton?
Through the Mayor, the answer to that is no.
Any further? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions in response to the question 6.1 in regard to the Wooden Boat Festival. I'd just like to note how significant and successful this festival is. And while I appreciate the questions, I would like to know what the value of economic benefit to the community was for the last festival. Therefore, what the rate of return to the community was on our investment. And could you also please estimate the value of volunteer and community contributions and other benefits to the community?
Thank you. Through the Chair, I believe the answer to question 1 around economic outcomes and impact is in the, sorry, I'm just having a look here, is in the economic impact report that's in the answer to question 3 in the council meeting agenda from the 21st of July 2025. I don't have the answer within that off the top of my head right now, so I can provide that on notice, but it is on the public record within that report. And then I'm not too sure, I can't remember if the volunteer, no, I don't think the volunteer hours and value was in there. However, we can calculate that and send it out to members. I'll take that on notice.
Did you have a second question? Yeah.
I wonder whether we could receive an update on the Electoral Commission of South Australia's request to delay the local government elections, if there is one.
Well, we had correspondence from the President of the LGA today to advise us that they expected the Minister to give them an indication this week, within the next few days. Any other? Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I've got 2 questions and I would also be seeking for them to be included in the minutes, the answers. My first question is, can administration please confirm that whether as a result of Councillor Oliver's amended motion being lost at the council meeting on 21 July 2025, that there has been any impact or change on Alexandrina Council's commitment to take action to address ESCOSA's advice and recommendations to date? Do you want me to hold on the second question?
Thanks, Andrew.
Through the Mayor, always very cool. This is our 25-26 community plan, and back in 25-26 community plan we addressed how council was responding to all of the 10 ESCOSA recommendations. At the most recent Audit and Risk Committee actually not the most recent Audit and Risk Committee, sorry, in the May Audit and Risk Committee, we revised our responses and they'll be going into the annual community plan going forward, along with the ESCOSA report, which we're required to do across the next 4 years until we're reassessed. I guess there's probably one area where we are working through the ESCOSA response still, which is around recommendation 4, which was to be undertaking detailed review with its community on what the community is willing to pay and the services and the asset stocks that this can accommodate to achieve a more robust financial sustainability position. And I guess we're about to release our community survey in that respect. And so that community survey will be driving some of the next actions and service reviews that we will be bringing back to the Chamber to consider. And I think from my recollection of our workshops, that was what we were trying to suggest through that process. And I guess just through that, again, in the long-term financial plan that's out for consultation, we've put a section in there on what we have achieved through our responses to ESCOSA, so 1.85% above rates of CPI for the first 4 years compared to 12%. The labour cost savings that we've achieved over 10 years have planned about $4.5 million. The reduction in our borrowings from what ESCOSA reviewed of $54 million down to $42 million, and the way we've restructured our renewal funding, increasing our renewal funding while cutting our new capital processes. So I think that answers the question.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah, which is a follow-up. I'm pretty sure you have answered most of it. It was just clarification and confirmation that out of ASCOSA's recommendations that if we haven't completed actioning, we're still actioning each one. There's not one that hasn't been.
Yeah, we believe we've gone probably above and beyond what the requirements of ASCOSA have asked us to do, and we commence that before ASCOSA actually presented us the report. We build our budget off this ASCOSA report. This is something that we are heavily considering, and it's not something that we're taking lightly. The next tranche of ASCOSA is just completed its public consultation, and will be coming out in the next 4 years. We'll be going through that cycle again. Then we're going to come back and review this document that they put out. We will be focusing on making sure that what our status was in that will be far and away improved.
You wish to move that they be recorded in the minutes? Is there a seconder? Councillor Miller. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Are there any other questions without notice? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I have 4 questions. 2 of them relate to the Wooden Boat Festival, just building on Councillor Oliver's questions. When will council members know how much additional funding on top of the $70,000 in the draft annual community plan will be required to deliver the Wooden Boat Festival planned for Anzac Day next year, given it is my understanding an additional $70,000 will likely be required, and the amounts currently in the budget don't include staff time? So I'm just looking for an indicative time of when we'll know.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So the plan for the next steps is that the team are working through some more refined costings, just so we have a better idea, because when we brought that to Council informally, originally it was high-level planning, so we're trying to get that more accurate. Then the plan is to take that to the Wooden Boat Festival Committee in late June, and I'd envisage either a Council information session to be talked through that, or to be the July Council meeting potentially. We haven't exactly worked out the timings of that, but we'll know more once we talk with the committee at the end of June.
Thank you, Worship. Just a subsequent question. So that budget request will be handled outside of the budget review cycle? Is that what I'm understanding?
Through the Chair, so we're not entirely sure at the moment whether there will be an additional budget request. If there was an additional budget request and the annual community plan and budget had already been adopted, then that would need to be considered by Council as a budget variation.
My second question is, what would be required to have the agenda and minutes from the former Section 41 committee, that was the Goolwa Wharf Board, made publicly available? And will any learnings from those meetings be considered in the Wharf Precinct review and also in the planning for the Wooden Boat Festival?
Thank you. Through the Chair, sorry, did you say to be made public? Yeah. So I believe they've been made available for council members, but to be made public, I'm assuming that's something we could publish. Yeah. So we can check if any is confidential, but yeah, I don't see that we can't do that. We can action that.
Thank you, Worship. My other 2, they were questions I hadn't intended to ask, but given the questions before, I thought it was helpful. Did Alexandrina Council respond to the invitation from ASCOSA to provide feedback on the ASCOSA's local government advice second cycle framework and approach? And if we didn't, we were just wondering why we didn't. And I've got a second question as well.
Through there, we didn't formally do it ourselves. Southern Local Government, Southern Hills Local Government Association did a response, and we were aware of that response, reviewed that response, and provided feedback to that response.
And my second question is, why weren't council members given the opportunity to submit their feedback as part of endorsing or not council's administration feedback, so that we could express our support for the advice scheme and the continuation of it, because it does have, it's an independent analysis, and I just would have hoped that maybe we could have endorsed Council's views on that, and I'm very grateful that administration did provide some views. Thank you. Sorry, my question is, will we get to adopt in a public meeting that feedback on the review cycle so we can actually talk about it?
Yeah, through the chair, it hasn't been and it's not currently our intention. We felt that the Southern Hills LGA well represented all of its membership councils in regards to the ASCOSA review, and that is fairly positive and in support of a continuation.
Are there any further, Councillor Kermans?
Thanks, Mayor Parks. Look, I wasn't going to ask, but because I did submit an email and I got some information back, but I think I need some more. And I guess the question I'm asking, I would have asked on notice, but I wanted to first hear from the community at our the road shows, and the last one was last Tuesday, Mount Compass. But it relates to the proposal to raise the rates by 4.5%, and the fact that council has land and property assets which probably amount to $5 or $6 million that we haven't really considered within the budget. But my question is, if that sort of amount of money is realised with the sale of properties within the next 12 months, what effect would that have on the 4.5%? Now, I'm not talking about borrowings or anything like that. If we use that money directly to reduce that 4.5%, because the community aren't happy, what sort of reduction could we get in that percentage?
Sure, Mayor. So with any sale of asset, timing is critical, and the way we would be looking at reducing the rate revenue increase would be based on a cash flow concept. We would have to see future savings going forward as a result of that. So we would have to be using that money to pay down our debt, and we would need to therefore see a reduction in our financing costs going forward. On $5 million, we're talking $5 to $6 million, we're talking $225,000 to $250,000 of potential future interest savings. They would be going forward, and the projections of that would be really difficult. To what that would do to paying down, being able to reduce the 4.5% in the current year, we would need to run modelling, and I would be reluctant to be sitting there in that modelling and saying, given that any sale of those land would take some time to clear, and through that process, that $250,000 would be deferred out in future years. We only see a little bit of that. $250,000 represents about 4.9% of a rate revenue increase annually. So in that sort of regard, it's something that would be, how would it impact us going forward in future years? And in the current year, it would be something very hard to model, because to do a land sale, as we all know in this room, is very difficult, requires a process of consultation, requires a range of factors. And so that saving that we would see from the reduction in our interest costs would be something that would happen very late in this financial year, and would probably, for us to be able to do a reduction, very difficult.
Through the chair, thanks Andrew, but just to add further to that, Council's annual budget and budget performance policy is quite specific in terms of asset sales, and it says that the operating budget will be structured such that there is no reliance on asset sales. So that's currently in Council's annual budget and budget performance policy. Notwithstanding, as Andrew has said, it takes a lot of time to dispose of assets, and again, to rely on that at this point in time in terms of Council's forward planning, I don't believe would be a responsible approach.
Any further questions, Councillor Livingston?
Thank you, Mayor Parks. Sorry, one's a point of clarification from another question, and then there was another one I had. Just in relation to the Wooden Boat Festival, I just wanted to seek clarification and confirmation that its administration's current position that no further funding will be sought from council, and that the committee will be seeking grant funding and otherwise funding from the community, but not relying on council for any additional funds.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I don't think we're at that point yet to formally say that. I think I'd prefer to wait until we get those refined costings, and then we'll discuss with the committee where we go to and what approach we take, whether it's grant funding or seeking further, or there might be another model to take for that festival.
Thank you. The second one can be taken on notice. Just in relation to the meeting that was held on the 26th of February 2026, can administration please provide an update as to how we are going with engagement and discussions with the federal and state government regarding the land area queue?
Through the chair, I believe there's a meeting with the minister in the 1st of July. There's a meeting teed up with the minister. Yeah.
Are there any further questions, Councillor Miller?
Sorry, Your Worship. I just, in response to one of my questions with notice about strategic planning, that building services. We provide casual building services to the District Council of Streaky Bay. And I'm just curious about that, because there are a lot of councils in between here and Streaky Bay, and how we come to be the council providing building services to Streaky Bay.
Cameron, you can answer that, can't you? Thanks.
Through the Mayor, that pardon me, that commenced on a casual arrangement. It was Streaky Bay reached out to council directly at a time that we were starting shared services with the City of Victor Harbor. So we're essentially just providing that on a casual basis to really, I guess, provide diversification for some of the work for the building surveyors. But it's there's no obligations to continue that. So that's really, at any point, if it were to impact workloads, it could cease within 3 months.
Thanks, Cameron. Any further questions without notice? No, thank you. So item 8 is notice of motions. 8.1 is a motion from Councillor Miller regarding the Fleurieu Futures project. You wish to move it and speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Worship. I won't repeat what's in the agenda for my background, but my motion is really only about 2 issues: the role of the elected body as the democratically elected representatives of their local communities, and transparencies. The documents have never been subject to debate or decision making in a formally constituted council meeting of Alexandrina Council. Under previous and current legislation, informal gatherings or information sessions or workshops are not forums for which a decision can be arrived at. With the benefit of now knowing these reports exist, I've read them, and given the time that has passed and the referencing of them in responses to the deputations made here and at Victor and at Yankalilla, and the subject matter within the reports, and a SCOSA's 4-year exercise, their release to the public, I believe, should be facilitated as soon as possible. The local government sets out the roles and responsibilities of the elected body and the administration. So in a sentence, that means the elected representatives in the chamber set the strategic direction on behalf of the community, and the administration through the CEO delivers on it. As the reports are not yet public, I stress this motion tonight is not to debate the subject matter, it's just merely to take steps to get them in the public domain. And the wording of my motion is intentional in that it is leaving it to the CEO to identify and take steps to release the documents, which by their title suggests to me it was and is worthy of debate by those who the community has elected to have some say in their status. And so I stress again, it's just about transparency and us having the opportunity to debate the content of it in a council meeting. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Livingston? Any discussion? Councillor Coomans.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Parks. Look, I support this. As we might recall, there were some resolutions passed by this council at the last meeting. It was supported by Alexandra, supported by Yankalilla as well. And Victor Harbour decided not to support that one, but indeed they wanted to go a little bit further and include that as well as looking at amalgamations, and they were looking at that to happen next year. So to me, we're all sort of semi on the same page, working in that direction. So this sort of information that Councillor Miller says that's very useful, I think would be useful. I'd like to certainly have a look at it as well. So I certainly support this one.
Any further discussion? You wish to write a reply? No.
No, thank you, Ashim.
I'll put the motion to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Item 9 is administration reports. 9.1 is the outcomes of the 2-year Strathalbyn Pool extended season trials, and there's a recommendation with 3 dot points in front of you. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Maidment, you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Reading the officer's comments, it looks very positive that we should retain this for another 12 months. For over 3 years we've had deputations here, and at our village conversations, at our annual business planning meetings, there's been a lot of people advocating for this to continue. It should be business as usual in the first instance. This year was a very difficult year with it being much colder during the summer, and the pool at Mount Barker kicked in, and we don't know what the attrition rate was for that. A further 12 months will let us know, and as it's already in our budget, I think we could leave it in. It's something that a lot of the older members of our community are seeking. We don't get a lot of support. That's probably not the wrong word, but we don't get a lot of our senior people supported with activities like this. So I just think that we should be looking at this very seriously.
Have a seconder, Councillor Thornton. Any discussion? No. I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.2 is an unsolicited proposal regarding stage 2 assessment of an establishment of a non-motorised accessible aquatic recreation zone on Hamish Island. And there's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Miller, Councillor Miller, you're moving it? Seconder, Councillor Livingston, you're seconding it? Yep.
Thanks, Mayor Parks. I just wanted to say I do support the motion as set out by administration, but I did want to thank Mr Love in particular for bringing this to Council's attention, and also to encourage Council to continue advocating as we do and as we have done for a long time in terms of safety on the river, the impact on our wildlife and the impact on the environment. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
Thank you. To put it plainly, I'm extremely disappointed in this report. I think it's just a bit of a whitewash, and I go to the discussion, and this is nothing in relation to our staff, I'm talking about what's come from the department. They're using excuses that are all in relation to education. We're not talking about education there, we're talking about providing a facility for people with non-motorised craft. It wasn't very hard, they just needed a bit of an area cordoned off, but they have gone down a different track, and they're talking about areas that they've been thinking of reviewing, and mentioned silver sands and all this sort of thing. Totally irrelevant to what we're asking, and I'm extremely disappointed because it was an opportunity for us to provide a different form of aquatic recreation in this extremely popular area. So I'm profoundly disappointed, and I would hope that perhaps we could revive it in the next council. We can't tie the next council to anything, but I would hope that those that come back may well raise it again, because I think that's just we've just been given a quick shove here, and I'm very disappointed. And I think they could have done a whole lot better and could have supported us in something that would have been quite novel.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mayor. I too am very disappointed with this outcome of motion. Thank you for the copies of the correspondence. And in fact, when I read them, but I only got them late in the day, I didn't actually read no. I read not a priority at this time, or something that they haven't got on their consideration horizon. So I believe it's something that we should continue to progress, that has strong support from the community and has great benefits. So I'd like to vote no for this. I'll be voting no for this motion, and I hope that we can keep this process happening.
Councillor Maiden.
Yes, I too will be voting no for this, and I think if we vote it down, then there's an opportunity to resurrect it in the future. Where do our kayakers go, our paddleboard, stand-up paddleboard people go, our rowers, and feel safe without having to be with these to contend with motorised vehicles as well. So we do need a non-motorised accessible aquatic recreation zone. From reading the correspondence, it may not be in that particular spot, it could be somewhere else, but I think the spot identified by Mr. Love is probably the best place for it, in my opinion. And I think we should all vote this down and just forget about this at this particular time.
Is there any further discussion? And before Councillor Miller has a right reply, I just am not surprised at all at the response. In fact, it's exactly what I expected. We've been lobbying the department and the state government for years regarding marine safety in the Goolwa Channel, and nothing happens. Now they're talking in the letter that we saw today about putting a camera. Well, they're going to put the camera at the boat ramp at the Goolwa Aquatic Club. Well, the damage gets done going past the wharf, under the bridge and up the channel to Lafford's Point, and they've got no idea. The problem is they've got no resources. They've got one boat that covers from Warina to Cape Jaffa. I've not seen it in the river since the day the Oscar bumped into the bridge, and we hadn't seen it for months and months and months before that. So nothing surprises me. They're just completely under-resourced, and we pay, anybody with a boat is paying the Marine Facilities Levy every year, millions of dollars in the fund, and nothing gets spent on marine assets within the river. So it's appalling, but so I think all we can do in the future is keep on pushing and lobbying. We've had meetings, Andrew's had meetings with me with them, and it's been to no avail, unfortunately. So Councillor Miller, do you wish to anything?
Thank you, Worship. Just briefly, it was a disappointing response as set out in the report, but I haven't seen the additional information that Councillor Oliver's referring to. But there is no budget for this in our current ACP or even in our strategic delivery plan. So, there's nothing preventing this, and I think the wording of this is actually probably quite intentional, because there's nothing preventing this from coming back again under a different proposal or under some different advocacy. So I think it's appropriate that we draw the line here, and but that doesn't rule it out in the future, and that's why I am mindful of our current situation and our resourcing and where our priorities are, and so that's my reasoning, and I've heard the debate, and I hope you support this approach. Thank you.
That ends the discussion. I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? So that is lost.
May I ask a question, Your Worship, what that means now for this?
It means it's lost, and if somebody wishes to bring another motion back to council at a future date, they may.
So we're not proceeding to stage 3, and we're not
No.
doing anything?
Not doing anything. So 9.3 is community engagement outcomes on the Balluna new lease and licence proposal. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I do have a material conflict of interest in this, as Balluna supported me to some degree during the previous council elections. So I won't chair the meeting. I will leave the meeting, and I won't vote, and I just won't be here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the 9.3, the community engagement outcomes for the Balluna new lease and licence proposal. Group three recommendations with a heap of subheadings. Would someone like to move? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It'd be my pleasure to move them all at once as one bulk group. And I'd just like to say what a great local company with a great track record who showcases our tourism culture. We need to do whatever we can to support businesses like this. So it's my pleasure to support the motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Do you wish to speak?
I was about to say thank you, Mayor Parks. Thank you, Councillor Scott. I do wish to support all of them. I do have a couple queries, and when I was reading through the engagement and the summary of the engagement as well, it was quite concerning to read. I think a couple people responded saying about the operator having the licence over the entire wharf. So I just hope that at some point that is clarified through this process. But also wanted to clarify the other point that was raised about both of the licences being permanent, whereas I understood that one was temporary, one was permanent.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I'll ask the Manager of Property and Procurement to come forward to answer that question.
So through the Mayor, the licences are intended for permanent use, but there's only one vessel that would be moored at them, which is the larger vessel, but the other location is for boarding and onboarding of passengers. So even though it is set aside for them to use, they actually won't be there for very much of that other than loading and unloading. And that's an outcome of some of the wharf build and being able to find a location that's most practical for passengers to get on and off their second vessel.
Thank you. Can I speak now? I just wanted to say I absolutely do support all recommendations, Group A, B and C, and absolutely going from what Councillor Oliver said about activation and the wharf, and this business definitely does know how to do it, so I think we should support them in keeping on doing it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Miller.
I have two questions. There were 46 responses, and I have not had an opportunity to read any of the community engagement responses. So I am taking not that I don't trust the thematic summary that we've been given, but we weren't provided with the 46 responses, so I haven't had an opportunity to read them. So my question is, do we need to deal with this tonight? And that's one question, so I'm not speaking yet, I'm asking a question. Can other boats use the facility to drop passengers off? And I ask that in the interest of activating the wharf. So they're my two questions. If we have to deal with it tonight, because I haven't read any of the engagement, because I didn't receive it, and can other boats use the loading and drop off?
Right. Thank you.
Through the Deputy Mayor, apologies, we did have an error internally and the full consultation results were only uploaded this morning, so apologies. I understand council members wouldn't have time to read all of them. Does a decision have to be made tonight? No, not necessarily. This lease isn't set to expire immediately, and even if it was, it would go into holding over, so there's not necessary concern in that space. It's up to council what they want to do tonight, and I'll have to ask the Manager of Property and Procurement to answer your other question about whether other boats can use it.
So through the Mayor, it is proposed that the two licence areas will be marked as for the use of Ballooner only. However, the licence that their large boat is in has been that way for 20 odd years, and when they're not there, they're very cooperative with permitting other people to use their site. So that same flexibility I would expect would apply during this new term. But this is also only a licence, so we can always review the terms and conditions of a licence if we were receiving feedback that the wharf was full and there was not enough room. But one of those boats is only there to drop off and pick up passengers, I think twice a day, a few times a week. And even though it may be signposted that it's for use of Ballooner, we have a history with Ballooner that they are very cooperative in more than other vessels using their sites when they're not at them.
If I may, so does that mean perhaps the signage should be less, is that putting people off coming and parking at the wharf and getting off and doing, I'm not a boatie so I don't know the correct terms I'm just mindful of activating the wharf and having people come and go from it, and are we not getting boats coming because there's signage that will be indicating that it's for their exclusive use?
So through the Mayor, I take that on board, and we can work with them to make sure that signage is appropriate in encouraging other users for the wharf. It is only a portion of the wharf, but yeah, I take on board your comments. Thank you.
Right. Are you finished, Councillor Mill? Do you now want to speak to you asked two or three questions? Do you wish to now speak to the motion, or are you done? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'm not yet ready to speak, but I may at some point, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else?
Thank you, Councillor Scott. We are indeed fortunate to have Ballooner at the wharf. I've been living in Goolwa for 30 years. I've been on their boats many, many times. Not only just with my family, but with other groups. And that business has been an absolute colossal benefit to our wharf and to our community. These days, it is not easy to run a business, and I just have a great deal of confidence in this family and the way that they have been conducting their business over a long period of time. If you look at page 30, Councillor Miller, you can see that there were 46 people, or 46 who responded to the consult, and 89.13, that is 41 people, have said yes. I have read all of the consult reports that we got later this afternoon, and as I say, people are very happy to have Balluna there. I would absolutely encourage everyone around this table to vote for this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Maidment.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Michael Scott. I too have read the 46, like Councillor Gardner, fortunately this afternoon, and 2 people objected out of 46, and their concerns were that 20 years was too long, basically. And if you're in business, you need continuity, you need to be there's some work that needs to be done on those buildings, I know, and if you just have a lease for 5 years, they're not going to be terribly excited about repainting or re-renovating or even doing some internals. You need that continuity over a longer period of time. When the wharf was, I wouldn't say derelict, but run down, these people were there. It's a big wharf, and I have never seen, other than on a wooden boat festival, lots of boats tied up there. And I'm sure with correct signage and saying that there would be no objection if there was an emergency and someone had to get off a boat in that particular spot that they had a lease for, there would be no problems with it. So I think we should deal with it now. My say was quite comprehensive. There's quite a few questions. It just wasn't one question like, do you want to sell this property to lower debt? Like that wasn't like that. It was a very good my say. I fully support the staff who actually concocted that. So I'll be voting yes for this.
Councillor Kermans.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scott. I don't have any concerns with groups A or B. I'm just seeking a bit of clarification around Group C, which is in relation to the cafeteria, because no one actually came back and said anything about the commercial arrangement in that the lessee actually subleases that building to a cafe, and there was no comments made about that at all. But the clarification I'm seeking is the building itself, the cafe, is actually owned by Balluna. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, that is correct. It's a land lease only, so we own a portion of land and we lease that to them. It's their building, so if council was not to renew this lease, they would have to remove all the infrastructure.
Okay, well, that satisfies me then, because if they actually own the building and then lease it to another entity as a cafe, that's to me that's fine in terms of a ground lease. Our ground lease is only for the ground, not what's on it, and they actually do that. So I have no issue with any of the groups. I support it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Oliver. Oh, sorry, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm very happy to support this. I feel comfortable with the reassurance. It's just my nature that I do like to read everything. I don't apologise for that. And I'm also mindful that later on in our agenda we have a community engagement charter and policy that we're adopting, and I certainly do not want anyone to think that my consideration of community feedback is tokenistic at all. But I do very much appreciate the reassurance given by my colleagues, and I'm more than happy. I agree. I think it's a very successful business, and throughout the Wharf renovations, I think they were very patient. And so, yes, I'll be happy to support this. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Oliver, thank you.
Thank you. And just another comment I'd like to make to finalise the discussion. I'd also like to recognise and thank Balluna for their great support of the community, and in particular what they provide to other businesses in our area. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes. So I'll now put the motion. Remember, it's in its entirety. Groups A, B, and C, from beginning to end. Those in favour. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's carried unanimously.
So item 9.4 is the community engagement outcomes of the Strategic Land Program Group 2 regarding 15 Cadell Street, Goolwa, and the proposed sale of that building. There's a recommendation Group A and Group B. I'm happy to do them all on one, or you can do them one and A and B, whoever wishes to move, whatever. Councillor Oliver, what do you wish to move? Which one?
I'd like to move the whole lot, please.
Is there a seconder for that? That's good. Just talking here.
And if I could speak. Okay, thank you. Look, I support this. It's obvious that the respondents, 80% approved the selling, 7% said no. I guess I can only reiterate the comments I made before. We probably wasted time and effort in taking this to public consultation, because there was no legitimate reason for doing so, but I'm glad it came back with the way it did. And it's one of the properties that I guess if it now does go for sale, that it can be done rather quickly and can actually be used to maybe reduce our debt, but maybe have an impact on the percentage rate rise that's proposed, because I think something like this would have some benefits in that way. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller?
I just want to acknowledge again, Your Worship, that I have not read any of the 54 responses, so I am very much relying on the officer's report, and I do agree that this is the right thing to do. I do acknowledge that we bought this without a strategy, and we are now selling it, I guess, with a strategy to reduce debt. So I'm happy to support this. But again, I just don't think there was an issue going to consultation. I think the location of this building suggested that it was very much worthy of asking our community about it. So I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Oliver, if you speak, you'll close it because you cut. Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I'm happy to support the recommendation A and B, and I just also wanted to note that, in my view, this is a really good example of why it's critical that, regardless of not being legally required to do so, that we did continue to consult with our community when making a decision like this and selling this asset. The community is not taken by surprise. The community are along for the journey and clearly have supported in majority. So I think it's a great example, and I'm glad that we did that. Thanks.
Any further? No, you'll close the debate. Councillor Scott.
Yes, I'm afraid I have mixed feelings about all this. I guess it needs to go, and it'll achieve some purpose by being sold. You do best out of land when you hold it for a long time, and I've had experience with that in Cadell Street, further up the road, and so it frustrates me a little bit that we bought this 1 year and almost selling it the next. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's within a couple of years, I think. But I agree, it is an opportunity to sell it, but it is also an opportunity being in the main street, and I always think main street frontage is very, very valuable, but you've got to keep for a while to realise on it. So it's with mixed emotions that I will probably support this, but it is, I think it's unfortunate in some respects, but it'll probably be better off with the money in the bank, most probably.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Oliver, if you speak, you'll close it because you moved it. Anybody else? I think, before you do, I just want to say, I think the response from the community was pretty loud and clear to sell it. It was bought for a reason. The reason isn't going to happen. And it's just exactly the same thing as the land in Strathalbyn that we wanted to sell on West Terrace. Or South Terrace, sorry. It should be sold. We bought the land. The properties on South Terrace were purchased at a similar time for a good reason, because we thought there was going to be a food land in Dawson Street. Well, there isn't going to be a food land in Dawson Street, so we don't. That's going to be out on the way to Adelaide. So we don't need all that extra car parking land, which is what it was bought for. So I think it's an excellent recommendation, and it's another way. It's unfortunate every time we want to sell an asset, we have this problem, and we've got all this stuff we sit on that we don't use and costs us money. We need to move it on and sort of. I was listening on the radio today. They were talking about a little bit this afternoon about councils and amalgamations and all that sort of stuff, and it was come across quite clear. The councils aren't in the business of real estate; they're in the business of looking after the community. And Councillor Oliver, do you wish to?
Very briefly, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to clarify in supporting this motion that this building is a commercial investment or trading stock. It is not a community-used asset or a significant heritage building, so therefore I believe there's a good reason to sell it. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion. I'll put this recommendation group A and B to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.5 is the consultation outcomes and adoption of the community engagement policy, and there's a recommendation there with 4 dot points. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Maidment. Speak to it. No. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miller. Yep.
Thank you, Worship. I'm delighted that we consulted the community on how we were going to consult with them, but just a few points I wanted to make. I think how we reach new markets is what's more of interest to me. We know the people who regularly engage, and I'm very grateful to them. But I think we need to help, somehow or other, encourage people to understand how we're governed, and perhaps that's the issue. that people don't understand how they can be involved and that they can have a say and that they are heard. I do acknowledge that it is the minimum, and I just want to say again that I haven't read any of the detailed engagement. I acknowledge that it's the minimum that came through in the officer's report, and you can always do more depending on the complexity of the matter. Just because there's a minimum, that doesn't mean you only do the minimum. The challenge we have is getting people to respond, and I actually believe Alexandrina Council does consultation very well. And I do note that anyone can request to make a deputation at any time on any topic. People can use petitions to engage with us, and they can also approach council members and the administration. Community engagement takes on many forms in my mind, and I think we also need to acknowledge that we have 4 of Council's 7 Section 41 committees have community representation. We have 4 additional advisory groups, all with community representation, where there are 3 regional subsidiaries, 2 development and planning committees, and representation on external organisations. We are blessed to have an active community with community groups and forums. I believe the danger we have is that we forget to listen out for what I regularly refer to as the silent cohort. Our biggest challenge and biggest responsibility is to promote interest, understanding and accurate information. Councils are the most transparent level of government. It's the volume and detail of information that is extraordinary, in my view, and is overwhelming and difficult for the community to navigate. I think we just need to work on how we explain the why of why people should be more interested. So I'm delighted with this community engagement policy and the charter, and I really look forward to hopefully the community engaging more with us and how we interpret that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Not. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.6 is an appointment to the position. A position. It's the Vibrant and Artistic Grant Assessment Panel. Now there's a group of recommendations there from A through to D. I guess the first thing we need to do, so we know what we're doing, is to go to Group D and look for anybody as a nomination that wishes to go on that panel. So do we have any nominations to go on the panel before we do anything? We don't have to have anybody on it, so no. Councillor Livingston, you nominating?
Can I nominate Councillor Gardner?
No.
Oh.
So do we have any nominations? Anybody want? Councillor Miller?
Can I just deal with receiving and noting the report? What have we got? We haven't
let's just get Group D done first, please. Then we know where we're going with this whole motion.
Group B, did you say, or D?
Group D. We need to know if we're going to appoint anybody. We can do Group A, but we don't then we know whether we need to do Group B and C. We know what we're doing if we do Group D. So is there anybody wishes to nominate to go on the panel? If there's not, I will just go to Group A, that we receive and note the contents of the report. So is there a mover for Group A? A mover for Group A? Are you moving it?
Well, I thought we were going to determine whether we wanted to appoint someone or not first.
I've been asking for the last 5 minutes or so, would somebody like to nominate, and nobody has. So if we don't have anybody to nominate, we know where we are.
Mayor Park, I was prepared to volunteer for that position.
That's goodness. Anybody else? Councillor Miller.
I'm prepared to nominate for this, but I was just trying to work out, I thought we might discuss why we have a vacancy and what's involved, and that's what I'm seeking to understand before I could make a decision. So I thought if we noted the report first and had some discussion about why there's a vacancy, then that might have been helpful. But
well, the reason why the vacancy is in the background. It's all in the agenda. So Councillor Coomans, you've nominated. So Councillor Miller, are you nominating? No. So is there anybody else nominating? Let's get that straight first. Thank you. So Councillor Coomans, you're nominating. So now we can go through the group A, B, C and D. Right, so Lachlan suggests we just do, what we need to do is group A and group D together. So is there a mover for that? Councillor Livingston?
Can I move just group A, please?
Is there a seconder for group A? Councillor Miller? Is there any discussion? Councillor Miller?
I'm just seeking to understand a little bit more how many just a little bit more about this program and why is there a volume of applications, or what is the, I guess I'm interested in some feedback on the why we now have a vacancy with 3 months to go in this term of council potentially. And if we don't appoint someone, who will be the assessors? Just administration bringing a report directly to council, is that correct?
We have a nomination, which is Councillor Coomans. So when we get to Group D, we'll appoint somebody. We don't have anybody at the moment, so what we're trying to do is receive and note the contents of the report at this stage, not anything else. We're not appointing anybody at the moment. We're not doing anything other than receiving and noting. Stacey, do you want to give any background on that?
Thank you. Sorry, I have been on annual leave, so I've just had to remind myself today that it is Councillor Oliver, after his valuable contribution, has resigned from that as a panel member on that grant type. I unfortunately don't have any staff members here tonight who can answer the volume or anything like that. I'm not sure whether Councillor Oliver remembers roughly how many applications there might have been.
Not as many as the other, right. But there is a lot of work involved in assessing them. It's very complex, very technical.
Yeah, and I can just see from the table here that the report author has said that so there should be a staff member, and there would also be a peer from within the local government sector that would be able to provide advice on that stream, who's yet to be named from what I can see in the report.
So, got a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
Just a question. So a peer from within the local government sector, does that mean it's someone within local government employment, or is this someone from the community that we won't have any sort of decision over who it will be? Not assuming that it is Councillor Coomans, of course, but if it's not, and we don't appoint anyone, because if I understood correctly, the Mayor said we don't have to appoint anyone, it can just be subject matter experts, which is, I guess where I'm going with this is, these are very sort of, certainly, you need to have knowledge of what is vibrant and artistic and that sort of thing. So I guess I'm trying to understand if these will be assessed by subject matter experts to come to us to then make a decision on.
Yeah, apologies, I'm unable to answer that right now, right here. I don't have any staff that can help me with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Lachlan is saying it's within the agenda, probably within the attachment, isn't it? No, within the page 87 and 88. It tells you all about it there. Yep. So we're still on Group A. Is there any further discussion on Group A? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Now we can do Group D, which is to appoint Councillor Coomans. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Maidment. Second, Councillor Livingston. Is there any discussion? Councillor Maidment, well, you can close the discussion.
Yeah, I can close it. Very appropriate that we have a vibrant and artistic council member to be appointed to this particular panel.
So that ends the discussion. I'll put the recommendation group D to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.7 is the appointment of a representative to the Australian Local Government Women's Association. The same applies here. We just need to go to Group D first and look at, do we have a nomination from somebody within this council to go on the Australian Local Government Women's Association South Australian Committee? Is there a nomination from council for that position? Question, yep.
Yeah, I did notice in the Constitution for the Local Government Women's Association that it does not stipulate that it's a woman only. It can also be a male. So it's really open to any member of the council.
That's correct. Always been that. It's always been that. And so do we have a nomination for the Australian Women's Local Government Association? If we don't, we'll just go to recommendation group A and receive and note the contents of the report. So is there a mover for that? Move, Councillor Maidment. Second, Councillor Livingston. Any discussion regarding group A? If not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Councillor Scott, if would you please concentrate? Let's. Now, all those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. (9.8) is the appointment to a position on the Audit and Risk Committee, an independent member for the selection panel, and we've got the same situation again where we just need to find a council member as a representative. Anybody to nominate to go on the Audit and Risk Committee. That's a good committee. Council. On the selection panel. Oh, sorry, on the selection panel. Yeah, Councillor Miller.
Oh, I have a question.
A question?
Do we have to have someone on there? Could it just be the CEO and the chair? I mean, is it?
Through the Mayor, no, you don't have to put a council member on there. The terms of reference allow for the CEO to form the panel, but we put this extra step in place to bring you the report because in the past council have wanted involvement of selecting who they might like on that panel. So it doesn't have to have a council member, but what the terms of reference say is the CEO will form the panel and it may include a council member or staff or who he sees fit, but we're just bringing it to you guys in case you do want to nominate someone.
That's all of you wish to.
I'd like to nominate myself if I could, please, Mayor. And
just see what we got further. If we go any further, are there any other nominations? It's on the selection panel. No. So that being it, we will leave you in there, Councillor Oliver, in Group D. So, Lachlan, which one do we have to move? A and D?
Yes.
So we're moving A and D. So is there a mover for that? Councillor Kermans. Secondly, Councillor Livingston. Any discussion? No. Councillor.
Thank you. Very briefly, I'd just like to thank Andrew Hayes for his service. He's provided expert independent advice and made a very significant contribution to this committee.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll put the recommendation group A and D to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. (9.9) is landowners' consent for the Milang Railway Museum, their windmill, to erect their windmill. There's a recommendation there with 2 dot points. Move, Councillor Maidment. Yep.
This is a no-brainer. The background information gives us a history of this particular windmill that they'd like to install. There was one there previously. No one's objecting. Department of Environment and Water aren't objecting. It's their land. There was a windmill there that supplied the station from 1884 to the early 1970s. Excuse me. And it will add to the amenity of the area in terms of its historical character. So I hope you support it.
Councillor Livingston, you seconding it? Yeah. Any discussion? Councillor Kermans?
I think Councillor Maidman might have said it all. It's a terrific asset. It's great for tourism, and congratulations to that organisation. They do a magnificent job.
Councillor, did you stick your hand up, Councillor Gardner? With your hand up. Did I? No, I didn't. No, I'm seeing things. Any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
Just very briefly, I am delighted to support this, and I love everything that goes on down at the Milang Railway Museum. I think it's a marvellous asset for that community. Thank you.
Any further discussion? No, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.10 is the policy review. I should have asked that too. The policy review on the curbside waste collection. Alan, is there any? I've been asking this earlier. Anything to add to that report? A bit late to start doing that now, but I should have been doing it. Sorry. So there's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Is there a mover for that?
Mayor Parks, look, I'd really like to defer making a decision on this one, because there is one heck of a lot of information in that, and it affects a lot of people, and I really think we need to have an information session where we can sort of drill down on this one, because I look at things like...
Just a sec, before we go any further. So we need to get a mover and a seconder first.
Well, I'm going to move that it be deferred.
No, hang on. You can get a mover and a seconder, then you could move a formal motion.
Oh, you can do that.
Can you? Formal motion.
Nothing's been moved yet.
Just a second. Just let me straighten it out.
Okay.
Just make sure I got that right with Lachlan. So you're going to move to defer it?
I've moved it to be deferred and to an information session prior to making a final decision on it. And can I say a few words about it?
Yep.
Yeah. Look, reading through it, and there's a lot of information there. I'm sort of concerned. There's a change in policy, retirement villages. There's changes happening there, and that's going to create quite a bit of havoc. Things about the bins placed wrongly. How will this change? Driver moves. Yeah. Cost to the group. How this would affect sporting complexes. Phase out exceptional circumstances, nappy bins and what have you. I know quite a number of people in my community who rely on this sort of thing, and they are the last to be able to afford to have to pay extra for these sorts of services. And I looked at one thing about the bins. If you overfill a waste container and the lid's not closed, the driver might move on. Well, I looked down my street on rubbish day, and 9 out of 10 bins have got their lids lifted, but it's not causing any issues. So I really think we need to work this one through a bit more than just sort of say, yeah, that's good enough, let's move on. It's part of our rates, roads and rubbish, and it's something that we should focus on.
We have a seconder, Councillor Livingston. Speaking to it?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Parks. I completely agree with Councillor Kermans, and when I was reading it, was getting concerned about the practical implication that this will have on our community on a day-to-day basis. So I think it warrants further discussion. Thank you.
Any further discussion, Councillor Miller?
Can I just have a question first? We were issued with this curbside waste collection draft policy quite a few weeks ago now, if I recall correctly, and our feedback was invited. And then we had a briefing session. We briefly touched on it, I think, on the Fleurieu Regional Waste Management Authority executive came and briefed us at an information session, if I recall correctly. My question, that's one question, we were issued with this draft policy. I read it from cover to cover and provided my feedback, and I'm just wondering, did anybody provide any feedback apart from me?
Through the Mayor, yes, one other person or one other council member provided feedback.
So do you wish to speak to it now?
And we had a briefing session?
Through the Mayor, no, you've not had a specific briefing session on this policy. It may have been touched on in discussion with the CEO of Fleurieu, but you have not had a direct information session on this.
So you want to speak to it now?
Yes, I will. I'm speaking to it as if it was being dealt with. So am I allowed to talk to that, or are we talking on the deferral? Because I just want to foreshadow that
we're talking on the deferral.
Okay, so if this fails, I would like to move the motion as was originally printed, because if we are serious about reviewing our services and looking for efficiencies, and this is probably one where we can have I'm disappointed that we're not going to go with the officer's recommendation based on the opportunity that we've had for feedback. And I'd be interested to know what it is we're going to deal with in a briefing session. So I won't be supporting a deferral of this. I think we need to start taking action if we're serious about where we're going to have cost savings and efficiencies.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
Just to help to contribute, I think my concern was the potential charge to young families with babies for that second bin. That was my concern. That's why I'd be happy to have a discussion about it, whether it's done here for the next 10 minutes or whether we have an information session on it. But I think that's something that needs to be heard. I think it's unfair to target that little group of people that are flat out anyway and have to pay for a second bin in the future. I know it's going to be weaned off, but it's going to, long term, it's going to be having it to be a fee for service.
So, any further discussion? Councillor Miller, you already spoken to it. A question?
I did notice in the report there was a reference to not being able to quantify the saving, if I read correctly. I'll just check that it said there was no, I just can't recall where it was, but it said that there was no quantifiable amount at this point in time, if I read correctly. So I'm just, why we would go to this trouble if there's no quantifiable saving to be had, and there may never be, because this is going to cause some pushback.
Sorry,
yeah, no, I understand.
Question. Okay.
Yeah, through the Mayor, thank you for the question. There is a table that does show the indicative costs and tonnages of that program, which is around $131,000 per annum across 1,300 participants. It does produce around 400 tonnes of waste as a program, and that's general waste. That's not recycled, that goes straight in landfill. So in bringing people off that program, there will be some level of saving in terms of cost, and there'll be some level of saving in terms of landfill, which is obviously a environmental problem that Wiz Council is strategically moving with. The reason why it's unquantifiable is I can't give, or unable to give, a definite cost saving because we don't know the shift from this into other programs that exist, because there is the allowance within the structure of Fleurieu for people to have second, third, fourth bins, but pay for that service to be provided. So it's a little difficult to provide reliable costs at this point. I can only point to the indicative cost of that service and the strong possibility that people would remove themselves from it, and thus there will be a reduction in a cost to council.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Coomans, do you have your right to reply on that?
There's probably not much more to add, Mayor Parks. I'm just concerned that there's not enough detail in relation to residents with medical needs, large families, retirement homes, babies. We're dealing with the most vulnerable in our community, and probably people who can least afford to pay more if they do. So the things that I'd like to know in our discussion group would be who's affected, how many, and give us some more detail in terms of the effects on our community, because we're here to service our community, and if something like this is introduced, I'm just concerned that it's going to have a huge negative effect from our community, and I think we as a council should be looking at that in detail and discussing it properly. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion. So this is the new motion to defer. I'll put it to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So we go to item 9.11, which is the Fleurieu Regional Waste Authority, the third budget update. And so we've got a recommendation there with 2 dot points. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Miller, are you moving that?
Must-be.
Yeah, let me know, thanks.
So this is related to the previous item in some ways. And I'm just concerned that I'm seeking clarification that we are, by adopting this, agreeing to increase our contribution by $221,000, if I'm reading this correctly. So this is going to increase our borrowings by $224,000 at the end of the year, and will additionally increase our projected third budget deficit. Waste management is expensive, and I very much appreciated the briefing by the Chief Executive of the Regional Waste Authority. I would have liked to have tied my debate to the previous item to this, and I still remain disappointed that we didn't progress the other item. Waste management is something that is very identifiable as I know it's not a fee for service, but the medical waste wasn't proposed to change in the previous item, but this concerns me. It is where we have to focus and accept that you can adopt a budget, but when you have fuel costs and other variables that you can't control, we're not going to cut something to be able to accommodate this, so it's just going to be funded from borrowings, and it is what it is, I guess. I don't think we can say no, can we?
So do we have a seconder for it? Councillor Gardner? Councillor Olivia, will speak to it? Yep.
I have a couple of questions of clarity, please. I'd like to know how this bill gets paid. Will it be recovered from ratepayers? And what is the accounting treatment for it?
Through the Mayor, how does the bill get paid? Cold hard cash. It'll be invoiced out before the end of the year, and we'll settle that bill. We'll probably have to accrue it in June, because we probably won't be able to get this resolved before then, and we'll pay it out in July. We'll have an increase to our borrowings. We'll see our waste management expenses increase by $221,000. We would anticipate that we'll probably see our net Our share of joint venture equity, which will probably go back up from a deficit position to a surplus position, so technically this will be no impact to our surplus, other than no impact to our surplus this year. It's just a treatment where, because the subsidiary is returning to a surplus position, we're currently following their second budget review in a deficit position. It will come back to kind of cost neutral in that respect. We will not collect the money from the ratepayers because it is done. It's their budget review. We can't go back and retrospectively correct that.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment then. I would like to propose that we don't pay it and that we allow this loss to vest in the books of Ferrara, not in ours. Thank you.
Any further, Councillor Maidment?
I have a question. So Ferrara adopted a budget showing a surplus of 394k, and with the adjustments of 615,000 now, they will now show a deficit of 221. Why aren't the councils involved with Ferrara just chopping off the 221 as a deficit, because they were already budgeting for a surplus, and we won't be getting any compensation from Ferrara this year anyway?
Through the Mayor, the purpose of the reading between the lines of what Simon sent me and some conversations that we've had, the purpose of the full contribution is all the cash elements of Ferrara's budget revisions that have come through the chambers, so everything bar about $240,000 worth of borrowings, depreciation. The purpose here is that this contribution is bringing them back to a cash neutral position across all their budget revisions. That was the goal. Some of that's to do with a borrowing position, some of that is to do with the Audit and Risk Committee requesting Ferrara to try and come back within the terms of their endorsed key financial indicators, because they've slowly been drifting away from that. I guess there's a little range of circumstances there, but the whole purpose of the total reimbursement was to come back to a cash neutral position through their budget variations, essentially leaving the $240,000 worth of depreciation unfunded.
So, Andrew, is there any further discussion? No. Councillor Miller, do you want to reply? No. So I put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It is lost.
Can I just ask a question, what that means now, given this was a third quarter budget review, please?
Andrew, can you? Thank you, Andrew.
Well, we will have to go back to Ferrara and tell them that we don't endorse their budget for the third quarter adjustment. Given the time of the year, this is going to be a very difficult thing for us to communicate back through to Ferrara. They're going to have this dealt with. Depending on the outcome of this, they may be coming to you very early in the new financial year and requesting a budget revision on their New Year's budget, because this wouldn't have been factored into that. It depends on where they fall out. Their third budget revision is unendorsed, and we'll have to go back to them and I don't know, I doubt there's a board meeting between now and the end of the financial year, Alan, is that? No. So, yeah, the budget will just be unendorsed. The revision will be unendorsed.
That answer that question. So we go to 9.12, which is the Southern Hills Local Government Association draft 2026-27 business plan and budget. Councillor Miller had a conflict in this one. Did you wish to speak about your conflict? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship, I do have a conflict because my employer is a constituent council, and if we don't adopt this, there'll be an material impact on them. Thank you.
So, Andrew, is anything with this report? No. So the recommendation there with 3 dot points is moved to Councillor Scott. Second to Councillor Livingston. Is there any discussion? Councillor Coomans.
Dear, look, I did read through this and looking at their plans and what have you, and I sort of struggle a bit to see some value for money here. It's something that, I don't know, maybe the LGA should be taking up, but they've got operating expenses of $250,000, $147,000 for consultancy. I'm not sure who that goes to. They've got $30,000 of building expenses, $22,000 worth of public health expenses, transport expenses are about $14,000, but they don't have any employees. There's 0 employee cost. I'm sorry, I just couldn't see any value in any of this. What the basis for operation and the amount of money that we're required to put into it. I'll probably need to support it, but it's just not clear to me that we're doing the right thing here.
Through the chair, in terms of the Southern Hills LGA, their annual business plan, particularly focused around advocacy, public health plans, etc., is fairly standard across the state, and I guess essentially it's the advocacy arm of this area, the Southern Hills District. So it's pretty stock standard, and again, I understand what you're saying, but it's not dissimilar to what we see across all of the various LGAs across this state, with a strong focus on advocacy and assistance through other planning, such as public health plans, etc., So it's fairly standard, but I understand what your concerns are.
Councillor Maiden.
Just a question, could you explain the rationale from going from to a model where the executive officer and the corporate support are now under consultant agreements? Because previously Southern Hills LGA was employing someone with all the associated employee costs like super, work cover and such. So is this I don't see it as a cost-saving measure, because that consultancy agreement's showing $147,000, as Councillor Coomans explained, whereas employee costs were around about $98,000 the previous year.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What was the rationale behind going from employing someone?
I can explain it to you.
Yeah.
So before we had an executive officer, Graham Martin, that we employed, and then Graham didn't seek to renew his contract. He'd been doing it for quite some years, so the board decided that rather than go through, it was financially beneficial rather than to employ somebody with all the things that employee gets, to have a consultant employed. So Lisa Tibereo got the job, and so she does exactly the same, or probably a little bit more than Graham used to do, but she's not an employee. She runs her own business and consults to us. So it's no different, it's just that it saves us all the employee benefits. I hope that answers it. Is there any further? Councillor Scott? Hang on, you'll close the discussion because you moved it. So is it anybody else wishes to speak?
I don't think I did I move? Sorry.
You can speak now if you wish. Nobody else wants to.
That's right, I think I do. Historically, we've benefited, I thought, quite a lot from this group. And so perhaps now it mightn't seem quite as robust, but it historically, I believe we've benefited, and some of the initiatives that they've done, their advocacy on our behalf or collectively, and they'd done quite a lot in the environmental spaces, I believe, which was one of my arguments for when we were appointing our environmental officer. I was happy to support the ongoing involvement of us and our contribution to them.
So that ends the discussion. I'll put the recommendation to you. Those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. We get to get Councillor Miller back. Thanks, Helen. That's right. So item 9.13 is authorisations under the Minister's delegation to Council for the Road Traffic Act of 1961. Tash, is anything to add to this report? There's a recommendation there with, I think, with 5 dot points. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Scott.
Happy to move, Your Worship. It's a formality by the look of it. It's a matter of complying.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner. Is there any discussion? Put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously, I think. 9.14 is the Chief Executive Officer's leave request. Can you wait for that, Andrew? Not change your mind? That's right. So there's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Miller. Any discussion? Councillor Colum.
Mayor, just a simple question. I wonder whether dot point 3 is actually required, because I thought my understanding was that the CEO appoints the acting CEO, not the chamber.
The CEO makes the recommendation to the chamber. The chamber normally adopts the CEO's recommendation. Isn't it? That's like I'm saying, that's what I've always understood too. The requirement is that the CEO consults with the chamber. In the past, it's always, unless it's for a day, it's always been that way. Is there any further discussion? So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.15 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Andrew, anything to add to that report? So there's a recommendation that Andrew's report may be received. So is there a mover for that? Councillor Truemans.
And a happy birthday for the 30th of May.
Secondly, Councillor Maidment. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Scott.
I was just wondering how the meeting with Senator Charlotte Walker went, considering that she's so brand new and from down in this area.
Yep, through the chair, I guess it was probably mostly a bit of a meet and greet with just some general conversation, nothing specific really, but again, just to sort of meet and have some initial conversations.
Any further discussion? Questions? No? I put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.16 is the Council Resolution Register. Andrew, anything? So the recommendation there that we receive a note at register. Move, Councillor Scott.
I'm happy to move it, Your Worship, and I just think if anyone wants to know, just see how much Council is really doing, read the Resolutions Register, because it's all there ongoing, and it's interesting because you forget how much is being done at any given time.
So do we have a second, Councillor Maidment? Any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I just I note the advice in the report about the confidential resolutions register, and I just, as a suggestion, there were a couple that I would like to have been able to ask questions on the record in the presence of my elected colleagues. So I'm just wondering if in future we could have, when the council resolution comes on, we could actually have an opportunity to discuss the confidential register. It's I've found it for 3.5 years very, restrictive, and to put a question on notice is difficult but there are some things on that register that until they come back to the chamber I can't ask a question about for an update. So I'm perhaps, I don't want to move a motion to do it, but just suggesting that it's challenging. We do have quite there's a lot on that register as well, and they are significant projects or decisions that would be nice to be able to just have some kind of discussion about.
Andrew said we'll have a look at it, see what he can do. Is there any further discussion? No, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Item 10 is committee reports. 10.1 is a report from the Audit and Risk Committee, the independent chairperson's meeting summary. Tash, anything to add to that report? No. There's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Moved, Councillor Oliver. Seconder, Councillor Miller.
May I speak?
Yep.
I attend all the Audit and Risk Committee meetings as an observer. I just wanted to touch on the open space fund and the car parking fund, and I have had subsequent questions post that, which I didn't want to put on notice, and I have still don't quite have clarity on those, but with the open space fund, I'm just hoping that, and it was a question I was going to ask at the start of the meeting, when the Recreation, Open Space and Sports Strategy comes to Council for adoption, will it include any reference to the Open Space Fund, which currently has 1.2 million in it, and the criteria and policy governing its management? And I ask this because if those funds have been sitting in there for years, the purchasing power of them diminishes. And I know that I just don't understand the criteria and the accounting treatment of those funds, because we collect those from developers in lieu of them having to provide open space, if I remember or recall correctly and understand correctly. So I don't quite know now how to frame my questions to get the answer that I'm seeking, because those funds, I understand how they reduce our debt, but they are collected in lieu of developers providing open space. So we could end up with, okay, you've paid money, but you're going to have houses rooftop to rooftop, gutters touching. I just am trying to understand how those funds work. So it's just a question, it's a rhetorical question, I guess, because I don't quite know how to ask it, because I keep asking it and I keep getting not quite the answer that I want. So I'll give it some further reflection. And I had hoped that there might have been some discussion at the Audit and Risk Committee about it. But I do think our Audit and Risk Committee functions really well. I too wanted to acknowledge Andrew Hasty. I think there's an opportunity now to look at the composition of our Audit and Risk Committee and bring in some more independent members, just for that arm's length advice to Council. And that's certainly not a reflection of the membership on it. It's just an opportunity to have independent arm's length advice from experienced outside people. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 10.2 is a report from the Audit and Risk Committee Policy Review and the Public Interest Disclosure Policy and Procedure. Tash, anything to change on that report? No. So there's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Moved, Councillor Oliver. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miller. Is there any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.3 Here's the report from the Audit and Risk Committee, the risk management policy and the framework. Attach anything on change on that? No. There's a recommendation on that report with 3 dot points. Moved, Councillor Oliver. Seconder, Councillor Livingston. Is there any discussion? No, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.4 is a report from the CEO Performance Management Panel. And it's the CEO Performance Review Methodology and Process for 2026. Tash, is there anything to add to that report? No. There's a recommendation there with 2 dot points. Is there a move before that? Move, Councillor Gardner. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. Is there any discussion? No. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Council, item 11 is Council Member Reports. 11.1 is the Presiding Member's Report. That's my report for May 2025. There's a recommendation there that we receive and note it. Is there a mover for that? Move, Councillor Livingston. Second, Councillor Maidment. Any questions or discussion relating to my report? No. Councillor Scott.
Yes, just would you be able to give us just a quick update on the outcome of the LGA Ordinary General Meeting and Conference, please?
Well, the lunch was good, and it was a good meeting, and it was over quickly. The LGA would, if you go to one of these, which you can, you'll find that most of the meeting is spent with presentations. The actual meeting now is very, very short indeed. There's probably, at the most, probably half a dozen items to vote on, and I guess what you can do is to get the ins and outs. I can't remember everything we voted on now, but the minutes of the meeting will be available on the LGA website. You can look it up yourself and read all about it. But I think there was an interesting panel discussion on shared resources, which was quite a good one. And it varies. They seem to be a little bit short on guest presenters, and it was more panels type thing from within the organisation, but it was still quite a good meeting, wasn't it? Yeah. So, any further discussions? No, so if there's no further discussion, I'll put the report recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 11.2 is Council Members' Activity Reports. There are no written reports. So 11.3 is verbal updates. Are there any verbal updates on things you've done in your role as a councillor? Councillor Scott.
Yes, I would just like to report on a very interesting night I went to at the Middleton Town Hall on Saturday night, and it was the account from Go to Woe of the carving of the 2 whales out of red gum that are positioned on the Ocean Parade at Middleton, which council had quite an involvement. I was quite proud of what I saw that council had done. It's really been spearheaded and dreamt up by Jen Watts from Middleton. Absolute brilliant, innovative ideas. We were taken to, in the film, very well presented film, very professional. But we started off with a tree lying on the ground in Narracourt and being brought up here, and then Silvio, I can't think of his name, surname. Thank you. Carving it at Middleton, and he managed to bring up, he saw another piece of the tree there, and that turned out to be the calf. And now if you drive over there and have a look at the beautiful finish, beautifully carved, the whale and its calf, It was just a fascinating account of it all, and I might say that those that are interested can go to the Victor Cinema on Friday night and see it again. It's being shown again, but it really is worthwhile going to see, and just how it's developed. The artistry of it all is just amazing. But the Middleton people, a lot of local support, and the councils did a great job in helping out as well. So 10 out of 10 to them, but I really recommend you all to go and have a look at it.
So Miller, did you have something? No, sorry, I thought I saw you. No.
I was just going to say I went to the Tuparing Hall for the first time last Friday night, and I was blown away by the hall. It was packed for a function, and it was...
That was for a concert, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it was for the Kick Off Your Boots drought fundraiser and mental health for the rural community, and it was, my goodness, what a fabulous venue.
Come to the last Friday of the month, last Saturday of the month, to the Backroom Barbie. You know what you're missing out on. It's fantastic. Is there any other to add? No. We've not finished the meeting yet, Councillor Scott. When you finish, thank you. And any other, anybody else? No, so I'll put the recommendation that we receive those reports to you. Oh, sorry, need a movement first. Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. So that, there are no, item 12 is confidential items. There are no confidential items. 13 is that closure. So declare our meeting closed at 7:30.
South Coast Television, your community, your voice.